Hello again and welcome back. It's Joe here from Living the Learn. I just out here on the last of my day hikes. I'm on holiday in Sweden at the moment, and I just thought I'd pop out and have a quick lunch and maybe have a chat and answer some questions in regards to the last of my night videos. I'm going to try and move on from these subjects, but I appreciate the questions that come in, and I was looking over them again, and one of the more common ones I come across is what's the deal with hardness, with the HRC scale, with the Rockwell scale. And I thought that maybe I could tell people how I first started out and how I figured out the Rockwell scale, or the Rockwell scale, how it pertains to me. And that's the important thing about these things, is that you don't get swamped in knowledge. Just be kit focused, and that's an easier way to navigate around these things when it comes to complicated things like the Rockwell scale and like part-time metallurgy, if you will. So I had the chance to pick up some new bits of kit. I picked up the Grants Forest small forest axe while I was over here. I have to say I'm really enjoying it. I'm normally a Weatherlings Hull to Forest kind of guy. I'm used to kind of a wider head, but I have to admit this is living up to the hype. I'm a humble man, and I can bite my words. This is one damn fine axe. I've been carrying a tomahawk for quite some time, so I'm getting used to this extra pound or pound and a half in the haversack. But we can get on with it. So what I wanted to kind of talk about today was the easiest way to kind of get around the hardness question and the Rockwell question. Is that when you first start looking, or maybe some of you already have, at the Rockwell scale, it can be very daunting when you start getting, because there's so many different types of steels with nickel content and chromium content, and then people start talking about striations and crystal forming and all this kind of stuff when it comes to it. And to be honest with you, it's not really important. I find that once you're able to narrow your field of vision, and you got yourself a couple of litmus tests, or acid tests, like something that you can base a starting point off, that's the easiest way to go about it. Because even now, I'm 4 years collecting knives, that I still don't fully understand the Rockwell scale. But what I understand is kind of how to navigate around it, so that you yourself can have at least a base knowledge and answer questions, or ask questions that you can understand the answers to. And if you don't go find them, half the stuff I know is because I had to research it, and I think that's also kind of fun, because you can also learn something new. Like even when I first started buying, when I went to buy my first Mora, I wanted to find the Rockwell hardness, and at the time I couldn't. I was reading through forums and all, but that way I got a chance to start talking to Amelia from Mora Knives, and she's absolutely lovely and is always quick to answer any questions. And that came of that, and it was a nice connection to have. So getting down to brass tacks when it comes to the Rockwell scale, for those that don't know, or those that maybe have only heard of it, it is just a way of testing the hardness of a steel, or the softness of a steel, depending on which way you want to look at it. If a knife is too hard, this is the kind of fool's gold alchemy kind of question, is finding this perfect balance. And that's the joys of knife collecting, because what you should do is find the balance that works for you, not the balance that works for everybody else, the balance that works for you. So the trick with the Rockwell scale, or what people are constantly trying to do, is to find this balance between hardness and softness, and edge retention and corrosion. And if a knife is too hard, if you're really high up on the Rockwell scales, the steel becomes brittle. This is where people make a mistake. They think if they buy a knife that's super high on the Rockwell scale, that all of a sudden it's the deal, and you need it can be the wrong way to go about it. It can be ridiculously hard to sharpen. The steel can be very brittle, and it pushes a knife way beyond people's skill levels. The other side is it can be too soft, and you'll find that you'll sharpen it too much, like the HCR 13 MOV steels that you see on low budget folders. OS 8 would be another example that Cold Steel use. And these knives, you can get a wicked edge really quick with low tools and low skills, but then when you're out working these knives, the edges, they tend to roll. My Spyderco Tenacious warped on me when using it out in the woods one time, making square notches, and then that becomes a hassle. So this is the joy of metallurgy and life, is finding this happy medium. But when it comes to understanding the Rockwell scale, understand it for yourself. And what I mean by that is look at your tools, because nobody knows your tools like you know your tools. Nobody knows your kit like you know your kit. And when it comes time for me to try and learn something new, I learn it in regards to mine. When I'm looking for a new cooker, I know what I like and I try it out, and then I'm looking for a new cooker for me. I'm not looking at what works. Sure, it's a great place to find recommendations. The populist opinion is always nice to have. And that's where the bushcraft knife scene has kind of flourished, because after the past, we say 5 to 10 years of Ray Mears and the great pioneers of modern bushcraft have brought out the Woodlore and Trekkers and all these fantastic knives that with research and feedback, they've found a kind of a nice area in regards to hardness and length and grinds and stuff. So I thought this would be a nice way to finish off my knife series of videos, the Batten Gate series of videos. So being kit focused will work on the way I started out and the way I personally understand the Rockwell scale. So here we have my Mora and my new Grants Force axe. These are pretty popular, and I imagine most people out in the woods have owned a Mora knife, maybe not the specific model, but a Mora knife at some stage of the game, and a lot of people still have them. That's the only one they use. Great knife. But when you start to move away from this and you want to go into the custom market, you should use your favorite tool as your benchmark. So if your favorite knife happens to be the Mora Black and you want to go down the custom road and don't want to start diving into super steels and all this kind of stuff, use this as your litmus test. Use it as your base point. Use your Grants Force. Use your axe. They both on the Rockwell scales in regards to stuff like that. So the Mora Black anyway is a 57 on the hardness scale, and that's all you really need to know in regards to the Rockwell scale, because what you're looking at is, do I like the Mora? You know, is the steel good? Can I get it sharp with the tools I have and the skill set I have? Can it take the working that I give it when out in the woods? Can it notch? If I like to batten kindling, can it batten kindling? Has the edge ever rolled on me? So on and so forth. And if you answer yes to all these questions, well, there you go. That's all you need to know. You can delve into it more, but at least you have yourself a base point. Your Grants Force axe comes in at about, again, 55 to 58 on the Rockwell scale. They heat treat the whole head, and if you can work your Grants Force edge and get it nice and sharp and you know, strop it up and get it to where you like it, and you haven't had any problems with the steel, that's number two. You've got two pieces of kit that you've just done 5 minutes of research on the internet, and you know 57 to 58 is where you want it. Now those small numbers do make a difference. When you start going from 57 to 58, yeah, the hardness may be small. When you start going 59, 60, you start getting into really hard steels. Like when I first started collecting folders, my favourite folder, and still is my favourite folder, is my Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Now the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 is a super steel. It's a CPM S30V, and Carpenter steels are fantastic, and they're not Carpenter steels. For woodworkers, it's actually the company that makes them is called Carpenter Metalworks. They have an absolutely fantastic website, which I recommend if you fancy going on and learning a bit more about metallurgy. They have loads of information on there about how they control crystal structures in their steel and stuff like that. But the reason why I mention that knife is I personally don't like the steel. Again, one of my favourite knives is this one, and it's a 57. The CPM S30V of the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 is a 59. And I can safely tell you that it is one goddamn hard steel. You know, you're talking about needing to strop it on Superman's stubble to get it back to where you need it to go. I found that once it dulled, it took me an age to get it back to factory sharp, and still to this day I don't kind of have the skills to get it to where I would like it, to where I need it to be. I need to start investing in more sharpening equipment, more stones, and stuff like that, which I personally don't want to do. So my Spyderco Paramaker 32 remains as sharp as I can get it. So I knew straight away that I did not like those super hard steels and would not like it on my knife. It's the same with Bark River knives. I absolutely love Bark River knives, but they come in steels like LMAX, 3V and super steels like that, and they can be also hard to sharpen. I'm not saying they're impossible to sharpen. There's people out there who can get them lightsaber sharp. I personally can't as of this particular moment, so I steer away from them. Again, always coming back to my Mora and its hardness of 57. So you know that when you're buying a knife, if it falls into that, regardless of what knife you use, whether it be a soft Chinese steeled Elk Ridge or a Bark River LMAX Super Monster, you know what you can and cannot work with, and you know what your tool and tool set will allow you. So when you go to approach a custom maker, you're asking about your grinds, you know about if you're going to be using it for wood processing when it comes to the thickness of the blade, the shoulders, the handle. Always come back to your litmus, and then you can't go far wrong. Most makers nowadays, they have rockwell testers. I recommend that if you are talking to a maker, to ask them if they have a rockwell test or of any way of proving that the knife is what it is. Now, well-developed guys like Sandy from Jack Law and all these, we all know their knives can do what they do, but these guys have long waiting lists. You know, they might never open their books again. They might just work with continuous clients. So that forces more people to find more makers, especially makers that suit their budget. And yeah, you can take a punt on it. I've personally been burned by this, by buying a cheaper knife from an independent maker and being told that my knife was a particular hardness, and it wasn't. And when I took it out into the woods, me thinking it was a 58 was what it was supposed to be, it was so soft that I ended up just not using it, and I don't know where it's gone. I think I may have given it to somebody starting out in the bushcraft world and then get them off their feet. So when you go to an independent maker, ask them what it is, and armed with your knowledge, and again, this is all you need to know. You just need to know what pertains to your kit, and armed with that knowledge, you can ask the questions that you need to ask. Well, you know, what knife blade length do you like? Well, I find 4 inches is nice, but I'm lacking in this, or I need maybe a wider blade or a longer blade. This is the particular length handle that fits my hand. What hardness are your knives? Oh, well, I normally make my knives around 60 or 59. Well, then you know that maybe that's just a little too hard for what you need. You know, again, all this stuff it's just little tidbits of knowledge to maybe help you navigate around. I'm going to get on and have some coffee, and again, it could have been a long video about you know, carbon content and stainless versus this and versus that, but that's not what you need for the bushcraft world at the moment. If it's what you want to delve into further down the line, that's fine. You just need to know what your tools are, what you like, and work from them, and then you should be fine. That way you can't get bamboozled or swindled, and hopefully we'll end up with a lovely custom piece that suits your skill set for the time. But I'm gonna have a nice coffee now and process down some fat wood. I got a lovely stump behind me to test my grand spurs out, and I want to give a shout out to Colin Reddy and Bernard Nulty, the newest content creators on the YouTube channel. Check out their vids in the new year. You see, at the end of the day, I have not got, well, nobody has, in my opinion, the complete skill set. I can't get all the information I would like to get across, and Bernard and Colum and John and Paddy and Mark all bring different things to the table, and I look forward to 2017 and their new videos. So either way, I'll upload this later on, and you know, on the Living to Learn community page, and hopefully we can have a chat about it. And I'm really enjoying doing these question videos. If if anybody has any more questions, feel free to drop me a PM, or maybe throw a suggestion into the Living to Learn forum, and I'll try and tackle them as best I can. Have a happy new year, and Joe out.